Have you ever tried to imagine a world without time? It's practically impossible, isn't it? Time structures our human experience so thoroughly that its complete absence seems incomprehensible. Every single moment of your awareness involves temporal consciousness. Right now, you are remembering the past. You are perceiving the present moment, and you are anticipating the future. This temporal structure makes it virtually impossible to imagine existence without time. But what if I told you that our deepest intuition about reality might be wrong? Today, we are diving into a question that strikes at the very heart of metaphysics. Does existence logically require time? This isn't just an academic brain teaser. It challenges our most basic assumptions about causation, change, and reality itself. What is time? Does existence require time? For centuries, Western philosophy assumed that time was either self-evidently real, like Newton's absolute time, or a necessary framework for understanding change, like Immanuel Kant argued. It wasn't until the 20th century, thanks to modern physics and analytical philosophy, that alternatives began to emerge. By the end of this video, you'll see that while time is essential for explaining change, existence itself does not logically require it. In fact, some entities, and possibly reality's fundamental structure, may be entirely atemporal. Let's break time apart. Part 1. The Ancient Divide: Being versus Becoming. To understand what time really is, we have to go back, way back. This tension emerges as early as the 5th century BCE with the philosopher Parmenides. Parmenides was a monist. He posited that true reality must be unchanging and eternal. He argued, true being does not change. So, what about the changing stuff we see? According to Parmenides, change is an illusion of perception. Time belongs to appearances. But then Aristotle came along. He claimed time is the measure of change. Furthermore, there is no time apart from change. This established a relational theory that time requires events. This view influenced philosophy for 2 millennia. Later, Augustine of Hippo internalized time. He made a brilliant observation. The past exists only in memory. The future exists only in expectation. And the present, the actual now, has absolutely no measurable duration. Augustine concluded, time is not an external container, but a feature of consciousness. Existence may be prior to temporal flow. Part 2. Physics enters the chat. Fast forward to the scientific revolution. Isaac Newton comes onto the scene and formulates the idea of absolute time. Newton treated time as an independent variable, a fixed mathematical backdrop that was identical across all reference frames. This view completely shaped scientific thought for centuries. But spoiler alert, this classical conception would not survive the 20th century. Now enter the era of Albert Einstein. Einstein's greatest contribution to philosophy might paradoxically be how he transformed time from a universal constant into a variable feature of space-time. In his 1905 theory of special relativity, he fundamentally altered how physics conceives of time. Time was no longer absolute and universal. It was now relative to the observer's frame of reference, depending on things like velocity and gravitational fields. Because of the relativity of simultaneity, whether 2 events occur at the exact same time depends entirely on the observer's reference frame. There is no absolute present moment that is common to all observers. And it gets wilder. In 1915, general relativity further integrated time into spacetime, creating a 4-dimensional continuum. Where temporal and spatial dimensions are interwoven. Gravity actually curves spacetime itself, meaning time passes at different rates depending on gravitational intensity. If you are near a black hole, time effectively freezes. In strong gravity wells, time literally passes more slowly than it does in flat spacetime. This implies that time is not an external container for the universe. It is a dimension of physical reality itself. In modern theoretical physics, the standard view is called the block universe interpretation. This treats spacetime as a static, 4-dimensional object. In this block universe view, the past, the present, and the future are all equally real. Let that sink in. Our sense of temporal flow is just a subjective experience of our consciousness, not an objective feature of reality. Nothing objectively flows. Part 3. The quantum problem. If relativity bent our understanding of time, quantum mechanics completely shattered it. Here's the problem. The fundamental equation of quantum mechanics, the Schrödinger equation, treats time as an external parameter. But this equation is supposed to apply universally, even to the universe as a whole. So, what role does time actually play? This is known in physics as the problem of time in quantum gravity. Reconciling these theories requires us to rethink whether time is truly fundamental. Some current approaches suggest that time is not fundamental, but emergent. It only arises when quantum systems become entangled. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that entropy increases in closed systems. This gives time its directional arrow. The only reason we remember the past is because of the special initial state of our universe, a low-entropy Big Bang. Time's directionality is a consequence of cosmological contingency, or the realm of the timeless. Okay, so physics is telling us time might just be an emergent illusion. But can things actually exist without time? Let's turn to mathematics and logic. Remember Parmenides? His ancient argument that true being must be unchanging and timeless remains philosophically powerful today. Change and temporal succession might just belong to the apparent world of becoming, not fundamental reality. And modern metaphysics has partially vindicated him. Think about abstract objects, numbers, sets, logical truths. These things do not change, and they do not exist in time. The number 3 is identical in 500 BCE and in 2026 CE. Mathematical truths are completely unaffected by temporal flow. Take the Pythagorean theorem. It wasn't different in 500 BCE, and it won't be different in the year 3000. Or consider the set of all prime numbers, or the Mandelbrot set. None of these entities change, age, decay, or undergo any temporal succession. Yet, these objects arguably exist in a very robust sense. They have properties, they follow laws, and they can be the subjects of true statements. If Platonism is correct, mathematical objects exist independently of physical instantiation or human minds. They are atemporal, and objective statements about them have truth values. If abstract objects exist without existing in time, then existence itself does not logically require time. Mathematical reality is as real as concrete physical reality, yet entirely atemporal. We see this in logic too. Logical truths have an even stronger claim to being necessary and atemporal. A tautology like A or not A is necessarily true in all possible worlds and at all times. It is a fixed structure underlying all rational thought. Contemporary modal metaphysics even suggests that all possible worlds exist equally and atemporally. Part 5. Making sense of it all. So, where does this leave us? We need to draw a crucial distinction between two types of existence. First, we have temporal existence, physical objects, events, and thoughts that change. Second, we have atemporal existence, mathematical objects and logical truths that have no temporal location. Time is not fundamental. In approaches to quantum gravity like the Wheeler-DeWitt equation, the total energy of the universe is constrained to be zero. This implies that time may not exist at the fundamental level at all. Instead, it emerges at higher levels of complexity and scale. Think of it like an ocean. The ocean does not require waves. Waves are just features that emerge when wind interacts with the surface. Similarly, time may just emerge when quantum systems interact and become entangled. At the deepest level, reality may be static and atemporal. In the eternalist view, the entire space-time block, past, present, and future, exists equally. Temporal sequence is just a structural feature of the manifold, like a sequence of points along a line. This perspective preserves the reality of change while denying the need for temporal flow. Even causation works this way. In special relativity, the light cone structure defines causal relationships as intrinsic to space-time geometry. Causation is a structural relationship, not a process of influence through time. Reality, it seems, is far more stable and timeless than our intuition suggests. Part 6. Why time feels so real. If existence doesn't require time, why does time seem so fundamental to us? First, evolution. Organisms evolved in a temporal, changing world. Survival completely depended on predicting the future and learning from the past. Because of this, temporal cognition became deeply embedded in animal nervous systems. Human consciousness structures all experience temporally not because time is fundamental to reality, but because temporal structure is fundamental to how finite minds navigate a changing world. Second, our local perspective. We are finite observers embedded in a tiny region of space-time with incredibly limited information. From our perspective, the future is unknown and time appears to flow. We experience becoming. But from the view from nowhere of fundamental physics, all of space-time is equally real. Past, present, and future are all there, like different regions of a landscape. Time doesn't flow. We just move through the temporal dimension exactly like we move through space. Time flows from our perspective due to our cognitive capacities, not due to reality's fundamental nature. Conclusion: a Copernican demotion. So let's summarize the key findings of this journey. Change, events, and processes logically require time. Causation requires time. Becoming requires time. But does existence itself require time? No. Just as Copernicus displaced the Earth from the center of astronomy, modern physics displaces time from the center of ontology. Time is not the universal container for existence. It is just one structural feature among others. It is relative, it is emergent, it is perspectival, and it is dependent on the physical configuration of space-time. Time is real, but it is not the fundamental bedrock of existence. Reality may be fundamentally static at the deepest level. Abstract objects, by virtue of being atemporal, may actually be more real in some sense than concrete temporal objects. Because of this, the question, why does anything exist, may be fundamentally deeper than why does time exist. We are so accustomed to thinking of existence as things existing now, before, or later, but that's just a local perspective. From the vast view of Einstein's spacetime or the timeless equations of quantum gravity, past, present, and future are equally real, frozen in a four-dimensional whole. Yet this view shouldn't diminish time's importance to us. Time is the framework through which our finite minds perceive, remember, anticipate, and act. The temporal structure of our experience is not an illusion, even if temporal flow might be. We live in time, and we can only act meaningfully within a temporal framework. The beautiful paradox is that time is both completely essential for us and entirely non-fundamental to existence itself. Being encompasses both temporal becoming and atemporal structure. The universe briefly reflected on its own nature when you asked this question. Perhaps that moment of reflection is exactly what time is for. If you made it this far, your localized space-time consciousness is amazing. What do you think? Does the idea of a timeless universe bring you peace, or does it completely melt your brain? If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button, subscribe for more explorations, and share this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next region of space-time.